Welcome to the First Things First podcast. And first things first, we need you to subscribe and leave comments letting us know what you think of the show. We're listening. I'm Nick Wright, joined by two of my favorite people, Jenna Wolfe, Cris Carter. Now, let's get the show started.
Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to First Things First. Alongside the Hall of Famer Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I am Jenna Wolfe. And guys, what a weekend we had. Let me just start before you jump in, because you had a day that we did not. I was falling asleep last night. I had the remote in my hand, and I must have just fallen asleep. And all of a sudden, Steph comes running into the bedroom, jumping on top of the bed, screaming something I didn't know. Either our house was on fire or the Vikings somehow came back and won that game. And I took B, and I was right, and it was an unbelievable finish. I am still coming down from that. But you, my friend, you were there in person.
Congratulations.
Oh, it was amazing.
I'm so happy.
It was a great weekend. Great football. What does Brumley say? Adult tackle football.
Yeah, adult tackle football.
You can see why football is as popular as it is. I mean, the finishes, the games, the unpredictability of it, and topped off by the Vikings last night and Stephon Diggs with an amazing. If you've seen a lot of stuff in sports history, but you've never been able to be there, and that's what this was for me. It was one of the greatest things. It's definitely one of the greatest things I've seen live happen. And it was like, did I witness that happening?
And you have been a good luck charm for your teams this year. You were at the Penn State-Ohio State game with a huge Ohio State comeback. Yeah. And then you were there on the sidelines pre-game. I know you're going to tell the stories later, but he might have coached up some of the star players in this game. I'm so happy you got to experience that at the game and then take a nice little trip back here a couple hours ago. So I'm so excited to talk to you about it this morning.
Literally, he landed 8 minutes ago. All right, so let's do that. No better place to start this morning than on the corner where, let's just say, I resided this entire season, Case Keenum. Vikings and Saints in the play that won it for Minnesota. 10 seconds, 61 yards to go, and Case Keenum did that. He somehow found Stephon Diggs on a play called 7 Heaven, turned into a 61-yard touchdown pass, escaped anyone saying otherwise into the end zone to give the Vikings the 29-24 win. Am I doing the excitement to this game justice? Here is Case Keenum after this game.
I can't even explain it, man. I mean, we were definitely in desperation mode. Just tried to give my guy a chance, and Diggsy made a heck of a play. Made a lot of plays today. You got to give our guys credit, man. We fought to the very end, and that's special, man. That's one of the most special times of my life.
They count us out all the time. Nobody think we could do it. This game was over. I don't stop playing till the clock hits 0.
So, CZ, one of the things that we talked a lot about this week was how loud it was going to be there and how crazy the fans were going to be. Absolute pandemonium. I could only imagine you were there on the sideline when this thing ended. Just give us a little taste of the flavor, the atmosphere of what was going on there.
Well, the Vikings for a long, long time, even before they got U.S. Bank Stadium last season with the Metrodome, had always been known as one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. A lot of that manufactured, not authentic noise, but sound, speakers, and the fan. We got great fans, but it was a smaller stadium. This is the first time that U.S. Bank was louder with just fans cheering without any assistance than the Metrodome. Like it was, and you could see at the beginning of the game, even the Saints who played in the old Superdome, now the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, it took them some time to get used to the noise. And that's why they helped the Vikings get off to that fast start. It energized the players. But at the end, the Vikings fans, they stayed true to form, and it really helped the team. They didn't give up. There was not a fan that left their seat, even though there was less than 30 seconds to go. Drew Brees drives the Saints down. They kick it. I mean, of course, that's the way the game's going to end. But as Stephon Diggs said, he's been taught to play until 0, and the Vikings needed every second of it. There's a huge storylines. I mean, you talk about Case Keenum, besides his mother and Jenna Wolfe on believing in him.
And maybe 100-year-old Millie at the game who was on the broadcast. Yep. I don't know how many people believed Case could do that.
Yeah, I don't know how Millie survived getting to the game in that weather. I think it was like a high of 5.
I heard it was just
minus
brutal.
7 below, but it sets the stage not only for great championship weeks we have in the AFC and the NFC, but it also sets the stage that 3 weeks from yesterday, someone is going to get crowned Super Bowl champ.
Listen, we're going to spend a ton of today talking about the Vikings. I just want to I want to talk about the Saints on that final play for a moment. I feel so sick for Marcus Williams. I feel like I know what was happening. He sees the ball. If people don't know, like because the Vikings have no timeouts there, all you have to do is tackle them in bounds and the game is over. The Vikings are running everything to the sidelines, hoping to either set up, if they go shorter than that, a better shot Hail Mary. If they complete that and get to the sidelines, you've got a very makeable field goal. And it looked like it was setting up for the Vikings to potentially have their heart broken on a field goal at home again. Like that's when they were driving the ball down the field, that it was maybe going to be a 50-some yarder by Kai Forbath, who had just made a great kick a few minutes earlier. And I feel like Marcus Williams, who had the interception in this game, who had a great rookie season.
Yes.
Just panicked. I think he was worried about a pass interference call.
He definitely was.
Because of pass interference, they stop the clock, and then they can just kick the field goal right there.
Right. This is the biggest problem. When they play two deep safeties in a Hail Mary situation, the safety is a lot wider than he would normally be. Typically, he would be inside the numbers running at an angle to the wide receiver. But because it's a Hail Mary or because they don't have timeouts, he's already wide. So it puts him in bad position on Diggs. But he should be going up and just try to knock the ball down.
Of course.
Now, when he made up his mind that he was going to try to hit him, he realized that he was there a little too early. And then he tried to pull off, because in that situation, you have to realize the defensive coaches are saying there's two things we don't want to happen, all right? Number one is pass interference, and number two is don't rough the quarterback to give him another play. So him being out of position, because in that situation, the safeties are a lot wider. He arrived at the play early, so he didn't want to pass interfere, and in doing that, he wiped out the other defender. I mean, it's like you can't make this kind of stuff up.
I get it. It's pro football. I know he's paid. I know he's at the top of his profession. He's supposed to make any play but the one he made. But, man, I just feel sick for him. Like, he had played so well this year and very well in this game, and in the one moment that, by the way, he will have to have an amazing career that includes winning a championship for this not to be the first paragraph of his football obituary, and that's brutal for him. And he was just trying to avoid the bad play, and instead he made the worst play possible. And Diggs, as you can see, Zimmer said after the game, he wanted Diggs in the moment to go out of bounds. I thought Diggs needed to go out of bounds because I just assumed there was another guy coming.
Right,
man, that's all we were yelling was go out of bounds. But then I was like, we need a touchdown to cover.
But unfortunately, even though, yes, he will be sick to his stomach, and yes, this is what he will be remembered for unless he changes the course of his own history. I mean, this team should not have been down that. This Saints team should not have been down that many and had to play catch up, and they did. And you can point to a number of different ways and times where they could have gotten back into this game, but the Vikings just came out strong and fast. They upped the tempo. They did exactly what we said. They didn't give Case Keenum a chance to ease into his first playoff game. They said, get out there, throw the ball, and he was successful, and they were able to pile up points early.
Right. I think it might be known, too, because I had to think in real time. What if that play doesn't happen? Man, we're talking about Drew Brees, because to me, New Orleans was the most difficult offense and team to figure out here at the rest of the teams that were left. When I was looking at the Vikings, who's their worst matchup? That was with Drew Brees and the double running backs and their ability to be able to throw the ball down the field. But, man, we would have been talking about Michael Thomas and Drew Brees. Man, Drew Brees, and can he be the team that does this? Like, we would have been like, yeah, absolutely. Drew Brees might be the best throwing quarterback left in the tournament. Michael Thomas in the second half against Xavier Rhodes. I mean, he was beastly.
Against a first-team All-Pro.
I mean,
he won that battle repeatedly.
You're talking about the very seldom you're able to see good on good, number one on number one. And there's nothing Xavier Rhodes could do about it. But their ability and Sean Payton's play calling. Oh, my goodness.
How about a wide receiver pass on the biggest play of your season?
3rd and 1.
Biggest play of your season, 3rd and 1 in the playoffs. What are you feeling like in the stadium watching it develop? Because it was open. Like, it was a good play call. It's open. I don't know if it scores,
I felt the Vikings had gotten away with one. You know, because you're talking about huge momentum. They were having a hard time moving the ball on the Vikings all day. But in the third and fourth quarter, Sean Payton, he changed the tempo, and the Vikings were having a hard time like the Saints were in the first half. But this was one of those, moments right there, but tremendous call by Sean Payton. Man, it's a great football game, great chess match going back and forth.
Listen, you mentioned Michael Thomas. As an aside, Michael Thomas broke most of Odell's records for most production through first 2 years. We just don't know his name because doesn't talk, he's not flamboyant. He's just gone out there for 2 straight years in New Orleans, first 2 years in the league, out of
the Ohio State.
There you go. And been highly productive. He won a matchup with arguably the best corner in the league in the second half of that football game. You mentioned Drew Brees. Drew Brees had the worst first quarter of his life. 1 of 6, a pick, and a 0 quarterback rating.
0.
A 0 for the first quarter. Show the half-by-half breakdown of what Drew Brees was. First half, terrible. Second half, perfect. That is a nearly perfect half of football against maybe the best defense in football. At worst, the second best defense in football. So you're absolutely right. Those all would be storylines. But the Vikings, it was like, to me, watching it from afar, and this is why I was so happy for you, bro. The Vikings have had such, from before I was born, bad luck. Like people say luck, luck, maybe it all evens out in the end, but when you only have so many years of football and so many games in a season, it takes a long time for things to even out. And I thought when Forbath went out there for the kick, the first, what could have been the game-winning kick, I was thinking to myself, man, we said Friday, one of these games is going to be decided by a kicker. None of these games have been decided by a kicker yet. Please don't let him miss it. And he makes it. And then for the Saints to come back down and take the lead back, it's like this is how this is going to happen again. And instead, the Vikings become the first team in NFL playoff history to win on a walk-off regulation touchdown. And in one of the greatest finishes to a sporting event I've ever seen, bro.
All right, we're going to talk about this a lot more over the course of the next 3 hours. We want to hear more about what you saw at the game. Next up for the Vikings is the Philadelphia Eagles. CC's heading outside to do the rest of the show there. But at least his kepi will be warm, if you know what I'm talking about. It's good stuff, CC. Coming up.
Heading your way, Philly.
The Steelers, they hosted the Jaguars. What were the odds of the Steelers scoring 42 points and losing this game? 40-1, 50-1, 1,800 to 1. Clearly, I don't know how gambling works. Nick Wright tweeted something along those lines.
Unbelievable.
After only scoring 10 points last weekend, Blake Bortles and the Jaguars put up 45 points to beat Pittsburgh. So what did they win? They won a shot at the Patriots. As for the Steelers, they're heading home. Here is Big Ben after the game.
Obviously, if you don't win the Super Bowl, you've underachieved, right? Because that's always our goal. It wasn't our day. It wasn't our year.
Those significant moments kind of define you, particularly this time of year, and they made those plays. We made our share of plays in the game, but not those plays in those moments.
I'm just happy to win. I have no animosity towards anybody that's ever said anything. I'm happy to be able to come here and do this with this team. Happy to be able to continue to play for another week. There's a lot of guys sitting at home on the couch watching this that I'm sure wishing they could play. I know in past years I've been. So continue to have an opportunity to go play. It's pretty awesome.
We were confident coming in the game. I can't tell you why they were so confident, but that went out the door real quick.
All right, Nick, this was surprising to you. You didn't see this one coming.
I don't think there's anyone in the world that saw the Jags winning like this.
No.
We talked on Friday.
Just full disclosure, even Jacksonville, even Jalen Ramsey, even their thoughts of the game, they thought they would win, but it wouldn't be in this fashion. 17-14.
Correct. The total in this game that Vegas set was 41. That's for both teams. Each team hit the total by themselves. It was surprising the Jags won. It was shocking the fashion in which they won. I didn't see, of all the possible machinations, the Steelers scoring 40 points and losing this football game, I didn't see as one of the realistic possibilities. And listen, the Jags are going to talk after this game, and they've earned it. And Jalen Ramsey is one of my favorite young players in the league, and I love his quotes. But the Jags defense has almost nothing to hang its hat on in this game. They won this football game based on their offense. Going into this football game, there had been 10 quarterbacks in NFL history to throw 5 touchdowns in a playoff game. It dates back to Sid Luckman, your guy, Sid Luckman. Yeah. They were 10-0. They're now 10-1 because of Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben became the first quarterback in playoff history to have a 400-yard, 5-touchdown game in a win or a loss. And they lost that football game. I'm going to say the name that I think was the difference in this football game. Ryan Shazier. I tried to disregard it. I tried to look past it, how different the Steelers' defense looked pre and post his injury. This guy was the defensive player of the year. They then lost him. And in this football game, what I saw was Blake Bortles throwing checkdowns to running backs and tight ends, an area that Ryan Shazier typically patrols, and the Steelers had no answer for it. Leonard Fournette gashing them, TJ Yeldon gashing them. So I don't know how you can put this on the Steelers' offense. The Jags defense, the Jags offense just beat the brakes off the Steelers' defense, which was shocking to me.
There's a few things that were shocking. The overall physicality of Jacksonville, how much more physical they were in a January playoff game in Pittsburgh. Now, you just don't think those types of things are happening. Now, you have to give Jacksonville credit. Now, they have a great collection of talent. Now, they've been able to get around with Blake Bortles playing mediocre to poor football. He had 14 completions in this game. How are you going to score 40-something points and only have, so how you get to this ending is very improbable. But to me, you say Ryan Shazier. That was the biggest thing. Nick, I've been trying to tell you all year, there's a few things that do matter in football. Chemistry, locker room, morale, how people feel about each other. All right? When you have the night before the game, L. Bell tweeting something about playing New England again. You have his contract. Is he going to be franchised 2 or 3 days before the game? Mike Mitchell, when did he do it? When did he say? When he talk about playing New England? Like all these things I've been telling you all season. The national anthem, to come onto the field, that part. Ben, am I going to play?
You think all that had a factor?
Martavius Bryant. They were never a team together. Now, they're a very, very talented team, but when you get into battles like this, you need everyone to be focused on one goal, and that's advancing. It's not playing New England. New England could have got upset.
But, Cece, explain this to me, though, because aside from Mike Mitchell, all of those distraction things, whether it's Villanueva, Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, L. Bell, Martavis, all of them are offensive players. And the offense was awesome. The offense wasn't affected by any of that. The defense was why they lost that game.
They are a team, Nick, and the offense was bad to start the game.
Yes.
The interceptions and the fumbles. Yes. All right? That's how they got down. It wasn't the defense just got down. It was a collection, the offense, the special teams, and as a team. You heard the offensive lineman after the game commenting about his teammates. Yeah, so you think I made that up?
So does that fall on Mike Tomlin?
Of course it does. There's different families that they have different set of rules, and Mike is the head of the household. So who else you going to blame? You going to blame Ben Roethlisberger, AB? Because the players, they either, my former colleague Mike Ditka said, you're either teaching it or you're accepting it. All right? So pick whether corner you want to be on. Either Mike Tomlin is either teaching this or he's allowing it to happen. I've told you all along that was one of the things that's prevented the Steelers from reaching their potential in the last several years.
So I can take that. I can't speak to that. I will take your word for it because you know what you're talking about. What I can speak to on Mike Tomlin is some of his game management decisions late in this football game were indefensibly bad. You go for it. You have 2 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. Down 7. And you go onside instead of kicking away. What you're saying right there is we believe we have a better chance of getting the onside kick than forcing a 3-and-out. After that, you have a 1st and goal from the 5 with 40 seconds left, and you somehow never get back to the onside kick ability because you take so much time.
Yeah, because you're consumed about New England. All right? Like they tell you in the street, keep my name out your mouth.
Okay.
Pittsburgh, keep New England's name out your mouth. All right? Don't want to hear it.
All right. Let's take a break. Again, we will talk about this more. But coming up, how embarrassed should the Falcons be after scoring just 10 points?
Anybody know the Vikings won?
What's next for the Eagles?
Anybody?
Who knows? Might be the Vikings.
Oh, we're coming that way, Philadelphia.
Eagles hosting the Falcons. We all gather at Cece's place to watch Nick Foles. Nick Foles outdueled last year's MVP Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan. Foles completing over 75% of his passes in an Eagles 15-10 win over the Falcons. Fun fact, when two teams with bird mascots face off, the home team is 10-0. 10-0. Man. Here's Doug Peterson after the game.
Listen, when did Carson go down? Okay, since that point, no one's given us a chance. Nobody has given us a chance. And I understand Carson's a great player, but every week our guys are hearing the same thing, that now we're all of a sudden not good enough. You know, we're 13-3. We have the best record in football. We're, home field advantage throughout. Listen, there's not a lot of, the guys are going to motivate themselves just based on what they've done for them, heard for the last month of football, Listen, it really doesn't matter what you guys talk about, because that locker room in there is united, and I'll go to bat for every one of those guys, and I'll go to war with every one of those guys in that dressing room.
So, you see, this one was an interesting game. Was this more about the Eagles playing well, or the Falcons just not bringing it and not able to pull it one out?
Well, the Falcons, for one, it's hard to do what they had to do. When you go in as a wild card, they had the hardest road. They had the toughest assignment in the wild card round in going to Los Angeles against the team in the NFC we thought might have been the most dangerous team in the L.A. Rams. So now they got to come back home, get back on a plane, let's not forget, we've criticized them because Carson's out, but this is the #1 seed. They had a bye week, but this is a team that's been good special teams-wise, good running the football, very good on the defensive side. And when you get a week's rest, that's what you're able to see. Nick Foles, can he be more of a game manager in a low-scoring game? Yes, if the defense is able to keep him in the game. So that's what we were able to see. It's not the Falcons falling on their face. The Eagles got good personnel defensively. They match up pretty good with the Falcons. But did we think the Falcons were going to go on the road and beat the Rams and then go to Philadelphia and be able to beat them? Like, they got a lot of good football players on the Eagles, but all we talked about was their quarterback. And Nick Foles, he did play better in this game, but collectively, the team was able to make some plays earlier from a wide receiver to ease the tension because Nick wasn't playing great. We weren't making – the coach can say what he wants. Oh, people didn't change. Well, you know the reason why? Because Nick looked like that when he got in the game. It wasn't our fault. We didn't make it up. The defense hadn't been playing good. The offensive line, they couldn't run the ball. So that was who they were. They were able to put it together enough to play against a tired Falcons team.
Listen, I do my best every day to come on this show and talk about the people that did well, talk about the success rather than the failure. Mm-hmm. But the Falcons have to be embarrassed might be too strong of a word, but bashful, a little red-cheeked about what the hell happened to them in the second half of this football game.
That was a different game.
You can say the Eagles have had great special teams, throughout the year. And then they muff a punt and give them a short field.
Yes.
Their running backs have been awesome. Yeah, except from the first drive of the game where they fumble the ball away. The Eagles were handing the Falcons this game on a silver platter. Get a double-digit lead on Nick Foles. The stadium steal all the energy away from it. Put the game on Foles' shoulder. See how it works out for you. And the Falcons couldn't take advantage. You had a halftime lead on Nick Foles, and you don't score a point in the second half? You have one touchdown in this entire football game, and it's after a muffed punt on an 18-yard field? You can't have one sustained touchdown drive in a game to go to the NFC Championship game. You mentioned the 6th seed. They had the toughest road. Well, typically, that's the toughest road.
Yes.
This year, the Rams were a tough matchup, and they played very well in that football game. I will give them credit. They also, by the way, in that football game, only had one sustained touchdown drive. But I guarantee you, if truth serum time, Atlanta, you can either go to Philly or to Minnesota. What would you rather? They were thrilled they got Philadelphia, and their defense played well enough. I know the Eagles have a good defense. To score 1 touchdown, given the turnovers, given the short fields, to score 0 second-half points, man, that's a bad look no matter how you cut it. So I understand that Doug Peterson is talking about the disrespect that has been paid to his team, and I understand he wants us to give credit to the Eagles' defense. To me, this was about the Falcons coming up short when they had a golden opportunity to erase what was a mediocre regular season, be back in the NFC Championship game with a real chance to beat Minnesota. This was a bad missed opportunity for Atlanta.
Yeah, we were talking about how the Falcons should have done exactly what the Vikings did against this Eagles team. Come out fast, come out strong, take advantage of Nick Foles having a very shaky first half and trying to ease his way in. He was overthrowing, he was nervous, he was jittery, and they didn't do it. And they find themselves in the second half where they absolutely couldn't do a thing.
And we can't forget now, the conditions on Saturday were not the bestest for throwing the football. But you could see the Eagles' nerves at the beginning of the game. And they looked like just a postseason edition of what we saw the last 2 weeks of the season, but even worse. They're very fortunate to be able to recover from that awful start. And Atlanta gave them the opportunity to be able to get back into the game.
Atlanta had every opportunity to bury them early.
Yes.
They didn't bury them early. There was one moment of bad luck that cost Atlanta right before the half. Nick Foles tries to throw an interception. The defensive back knees it to the other player, and it ends up being a field goal that was a critical 3 points.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, that was good.
There was one moment of bad luck that goes against Atlanta. You've got to be able to overcome that. And Atlanta looked to me like a cliche, soft dome team. A team that, you know what, it is cold, y'all are hitting hard, we don't want to be out here.
That's a good point.
And it reminded me last year, they got to play they had the 1 seed, so they played every game in a dome, they played the Super Bowl in the dome, I'm not going to kill Julio for that. I'd like to see him make that play. He's one of the best receivers in the league. That's a potential game-winning, game-changing play. I get it, but he played well. Devontae Freeman, who I like, 10 carries for 7 yards. You talk about this all the time. Football is not a game meant to be played in perfect conditions at all times.
No.
If it was, everyone would have a dome.
Right.
You've got to have a second gear. Philly was giving you this football game, and you couldn't take it from them.
And we should mention, this was the first game that the three of us actually watched together at one place. We were at Cece's house. He actually had the exact, this is what the living room looked like. We set up the living room so it looked just like this, and we sat like this in our grown-up clothes.
Jenna didn't want me to say this on TV. It took one game of Jenna watching football with me to then place a large wager on the second game.
Okay, well, okay, so now that you said that it's out, I actually did say that. But this is exactly what it was like. And if you think this is just Nick and CC on the show, this is exactly what we did. We each took a turn saying one thing, and then we tossed to a commercial break. And then what happened. This is it. Cool. So pretend we're all hanging out having a beer. Coming up next, guys.
We improved our group. We had Steph working, too.
We had Steph working.
Yes.
Sue was there. We had our staff. It was all good.
Everyone but Mangini. Where was Mangini?
Where was Mangini? Do the Jaguars have a chance against the Patriots? Mangini will come and talk about it next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. We now welcome in Eric Mangini. Coach, happy to have you here. Get a chance to watch any football this weekend, or are you just here to hang out and listen to all the...
There are games this weekend?
I think we had 4 games this weekend.
Homework, Coach.
I had things to do. I'm going to catch it. Today I'm going to watch them.
The Cliff Notes version. Just watch whatever we talk about.
Is that what we're talking about?
That's what you're here for, Coach.
Oh, I thought this was Fox News.
Okay.
My bad.
That would be news.
Oh, takes. All right. While we're all sitting here marinating in the Vikings, when the Patriots quietly advanced as well, after a shaky December for Tom Brady, a shaky season for that Pats defense, and a shaky first quarter, the Pats said enough is enough. New England scored 35 straight points after that. They won 35-14 against the Titans. Good day if you took the Patriots and swallowed the points.
Whoa! Do that.
Who made money yesterday? Dang. I think I pulled something in my throat. Brady finished with a casual 337 yards, 3 touchdowns. Here he is after the game.
I know how hard it is to get to this game, and we're very blessed to do it. It takes a lot of things, a lot of good fortune, a lot of hard work, but obviously a lot of great blessings. And I think our team's proven over the course of the year, we can win important games against good teams, and we did that tonight. and that's why you keep moving on.
Coach, obviously you didn't watch any football, so should we talk about what kind of hairdo Tom Brady was sporting in that little bowl cut? You like that? You need to do something like that with your
playoff cut.
It's a playoff cut.
Clearly. So what about the Patriots here? They trailed early. We got nervous for a beat, and then I think the nerves were sort of eased a little bit. Do the Pats look unstoppable moving forward?
No, I don't think so. When you look at what Tennessee did, I really thought they had the right idea. They were trying to shift. They were trying to motion. They were trying to build stacks and bunches and create problem formations and problem plays and force New England to communicate. The same thing that they had the problem with at the beginning of the season. So that philosophy was good, and they were supposed to use more no huddle, which I think would have been effective as well. But the way that they ran it, because it's not typically what they do, it was slow. It didn't really put any pressure on New England. So even though they did shift and they did motion, then they'd get set, New England could adjust. Right idea, just couldn't do it effectively enough. And then the other problem they had is they couldn't adjust to the things that New England was doing very well. Yes. New England ran a significant amount of line games where the tackles and the ends were working together. Ends up being 8 sacks in the game. Are they unstoppable? No. I think all the teams left could give them problems, moving forward.
What was most impressive to me about the Patriots was Derrick Henry, 12 carries, 28 yards. Like, we always talk about how the Pats identify who your best player is or what you want to do, and that's what they're going to hone in on and say, we're not going to let your best guy beat us. It felt to me like, Cece, as Jenna mentioned, we watched the game together. You kept pointing out that the Patriots were in a 50 front, that they had 5 D linemen throughout the game, especially early, and we're like, if you want to run it, when you can't double team any of our linemen one-on-one, go ahead and try. And the Titans had no success at it. I was really impressed by the Pats' defense. I know the offense scored 35 points. I thought the defense is what was really, really impressive.
Well, you saw them, too. They were double teaming Delaney Walker. That was another. They weren't going to let Delaney beat you either. And really, Tennessee had tried to formation him so that they could avoid the double teams, but they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry it's a combo. It's Derrick Henry, Marcus Mariota, with the run-pass read option. If they have that in full effect, that's where the injury plays a part, because it affected Derrick Henry, because a lot of those, Mariota could have pulled the ball out and potentially ran, which would have stressed out New England defense. New England is a lot like Alabama. Coach and I, we always talk about it. They're assignment-oriented defenses. So when you have a quarterback who runs, it gives that defense problem. When you remove that because of injury, which we heard after the game, it's going to affect Henry more so. And they lost one of their offensive linemen, too. Yeah. So their inability to be physical, which you had to do with New England. Now, New England has corrected a lot of the problems where their edges, they weren't playing soft edges where people could get around the edge on them like they did early in the season. So you have to give New England credit for making those adjustments. But the lack of firepower by Tennessee offensively, and now you have the quarterback who can't run, that's why this game got out of control and was lopsided.
And going into this game, we all said that Tom Brady was the one that was going to come in here with a chip on his shoulder after all the talk about if he still has it and the distractions. And
I told you he would be motivated. Even a guy who's as accomplished as he is.
Sure.
If you can pick one little thing to get him focused, I knew Tom would come out with that type of attitude.
You know Tom Brady. Did it look like he came out there with maybe a different attitude or maybe with a different motivation, or was he something to prove?
No, I never see it that way with him, because to me, he's that way every single time he plays, and that's what makes him unique. Now, my sense of that locker room is where a lot of locker rooms would have been talking about the article and what people are saying and listening to all the outside noise. It wasn't even an issue. It wasn't even an issue. It was almost like it never. Exactly. That's exactly
and you
what
heard
it
that
was.
from a few of the players.
Yeah, okay, so there's an article. Nobody cares about that or gets caught up with that, and they just move on.
There is something, though, that the Patriots, I'm sure, will hear about this morning.
Oh, no,
right?
they're definitely going to, because next up for the Patriots is the Jaguars, and leave it to the Jags cornerback Jalen Ramsey to offer some of the more entertaining sound bites from the year. Remember, he told the Steelers to be careful what they wish for, and then went out and beat them. Last night, he had some strong choice words for his next opponent. Take a listen.
I ain't got too much to say, but y'all make sure y'all bring that same energy out here next week and the week after. We going to the Super Bowl, and we going to win that.
First of all, that could easily have been a scene out of the 70s. Like some smooth
good-looking jacket, Jalen.
Nick, you took issue with
No,
this.
I didn't take issue with it. I just know, Coach, you've told me a story about Bill Belichick before the Super Bowl against the Eagles, correct? That's where the Eagles had the parade planned. And he read...
No, Steelers. Steelers had done travel plans.
Yes. Steelers.
Someone else must have told you about that.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. But I guess I've seen the video of Belichick. That's what it was. I saw the video, Belichick reading out the parade route for Philly.
Yeah, that was another one.
Right, that one happened. All right. So my question to you is...
No parade, no travel plans.
What does Bill Belichick do with that moment there?
Well, he really doesn't have to do anything because everybody saw that and... Why would you do it?
You saw what happened with the Steelers. Steelers were talking.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and it worked well for them, too.
No, that's Jenna's point. Yeah.
I just don't understand what you gain from that. I appreciate that you're confident. I appreciate that you brash or however you want to phrase that. But it does nobody any good to continue to poke the bear. You don't want to do that.
I wouldn't have. I would have had a problem with the coach because I remember Randall Cunningham winning his first playoff game. It wasn't in Philadelphia. It was when he came to Minnesota. I think we scored 16 points on the Giants in the last 6 minutes of the game. Unbelievable comeback. We did not go to the Metrodome when we got back to Minneapolis because we had to go see Steve Young and Jerry Rice in San Francisco the next week, which ended our season. So I would have, if I'm on Jacksonville, I'm not going to the stadium. And if I'm forced to go to the stadium, I'm definitely not talking. All right? Because, man, these are monumental games. All that time, you know what they could have been doing? Taking an ice bath, recovering. They could have been watching some New England film instead of being out there celebrating as if they had won a championship. And they hadn't won a championship. I know there hadn't been a lot of success in Jacksonville, but the assignment this week is to beat New England. I'm not going to the stadium because it's not going to help me beat New England, and it's only going to fuel Nick. I think after one NFL season with me that you will believe me when bulletin board material, it does exist for grown men who play football for a lot of money.
It's a shock. It is shocking to me that there is almost nothing in my sports
I'm slowly
belief.
Knocking down your theory.
Not all of them, but the idea that I came into this year truly believing only media dopes would talk about bulletin board material when it came to pro football. Because the game's so dangerous, because every game matters so much, that it's not like Michael Jordan in a February regular season game.
Did he just call me a dope?
No. Well, that's what I had thought. I said media dopes. I would consider you pro athlete dope.
And he gave me like the media dope. Floated it out to you. Very open, hands.
But clearly it exists. Like DeCastro was talking about the Steelers providing it for the other team.
Yes.
The Jags couldn't stop talking about it. You've talked about ad nauseum about how the Belichick will, build these continued stories on stories, or on the flip side, not allow the other team to ever get any. I mean, clearly, it's just something I was wrong about. That it's a real thing. That now I guess the Pats have that slight edge.
Now I do respect Jalen and the culture that he's trying to change, because he's like, hey, now we're not the Jags you thought we were, okay? So, and that does take some doing to be able to unwind that knot that the Jags have built.
And there is an element of that going into Gillette and playing New England, where we felt sometimes teams had beaten themselves before they had even gotten there because they had bought into the mystique, they had bought into, okay, the way the game is going to go. And to a little bit you felt that watching the game against Tennessee last week. So I understand what he's trying to get to, but I don't think that's the way to go. That's a great conversation to have in the locker room or in a team meeting.
Not in front of the stadium. Time for some stories to start your morning. Football. And the Warriors head to Cleveland to take on the Cavs tonight. Cleveland just spiraling of late. They've lost 7 of their last 9 games. There's talk of LeBron padding his stats. Some would call it big bad. Nick, what are you expecting tonight?
Well, I like that you work in there. There's talk of LeBron padding his stats. I think I know who this anonymous Cavs player is. We can talk about this more tomorrow. I think I ferreted out the mole here. I'm very interested.
You can't blame it on Kyrie.
No, it's not Kyrie. I'm very interested to see how Isaiah Thomas looks against this Warriors team. My big concern when they traded for Isaiah Thomas is he borderline unplayable against the Warriors? Last year, the Celtics had great success against the Warriors, except when Isaiah Thomas was on the court. For a team that's in a bad spot, it's a bad time to be working things out, but that's what they're going to have to do tonight is Cleveland.
It's an exciting matchup. Golden State is playing at a different level than Cleveland right now. It's something we always look to because they only play twice a year. LeBron will look forward to the game. On Martin Luther King holiday, it should be a treat, I hope.
Cece, you said the Warriors would beat the Cavs right now the way they're playing by 25 a game in a sweep.
I said they would sweep them. All right?
Let's get back to
football. With a baby broom.
Okay.
After struggling against the Pats on Saturday, it was announced Titans quarterback Marcus Mariota injured his quad in the first quarter. I think Nick said something along those lines weeks ago. Coach Mike Mularkey said it had an impact on Mariota's performance. CC, you buying that the injury affected his performance? Would the outcome have been different?
Well, that's one thing you don't see football players making excuses. I believe it. The coaches, they reported after the game. You could see during the game. Now, when you go back after you got that hint of it, no, it wouldn't have affected the game that much. I mean, they might have stayed in a little bit of contention a little bit longer, but their play design as far as having the quarterback run, of course it affect that. But New England is a lot better than Tennessee. Tennessee winning a playoff game was a good season.
Did his quad get injured when he got hit by one of those ridiculous flags that was thrown on the Titans early in this football game? I'm not sure. I'm not sure I heard it. I don't think it would have changed the outcome, but you could see Mariota. One of the things he can do is run with the football.
Yes.
And starting early second quarter, he couldn't run with the football. I anticipate we're going to hear more about a lingering injury he's dealt with all year later in the weeks to come because Mariota's drop-off in play this season was inexplicable based on how well he played last year.
All right, speaking of the Patriots, it looks like defensive coordinator Matt Patricia knows where he's going. He reportedly will choose the Lions head coaching opening over the Giants. Patricia has been with New England under Bill Belichick since 2004. A little bit of a curious decision, I think, for fans. CC, how do you like this fit?
Well, you have to look behind the story. Look at the general manager. He has a background of being with New England. There's a system for which they rate players and how they're going to go about players. Matt Patricia probably felt it was a better fit for him from a personnel standpoint and how they're going to go about doing business compared to taking the Giants and being with Gettleman, who is going to make all the decision, and the coach is going to have to be more on board. I think that the general manager for the Giants is more of a leader compared to a role player like they have in Detroit, Nick.
That's really interesting insight because I don't think most people know that background behind the scenes because what most people are looking at this and saying, a guy just said I'd rather coach the Lions than the Giants. What does that say about the Giants? You're telling me it's more about the infrastructure in place than just the names on the helmets.
Yeah, it's about relationships.
The relationships and if he's going to be able to install his system.
It's the reason why you're on this show compared to more talented people that I turned down.
This is unbelievable. Because of our great relationships.
Because we got chemistry.
Because we went to high school together.
True. And finally, we all saw the thrilling final play of the game, which gave the Vikings the win over the Saints. But, CC, you were there in person. Give us an idea of what it was like.
It was amazing because the Vikings started playing football in 1961.
Look at that.
But you could see through the Viking faithful, every fan, every player, every coach that's ever played for the Vikings. They've never won a Super Bowl. So this team is out there playing for all of us. So to Cameron Jordan, the great player for New Orleans, his dad, Steve Jordan, Brown graduate, was a teammate of mine, having him mixed emotions in there, but pulling for his Vikings and pulling for his son. Robert Smith, good friend of mine, seeing him on the sideline. And these fans in Minneapolis, like, they want this. Like, they want it. It's a very good football team, and no one's giving them a chance. Jenna, you were way up on it on the Case, and, man, Case doesn't have the rabbit foot. Case got the rabbit ears, all 4 feet in his back pocket. Like, it's an amazing, amazing thing to see because that's my team. Like, I'm a Hall of Famer, but that's my team. That's who I cheer for. That's who I pull for. That's the team that made an investment in my life. Like, I'm just like any other fan. I'm no announcer out there, and we haven't had any success. So I'm just so happy for the kids. And I challenged Diggs before the game. I told him we used to have great receivers play for the team. So afterwards, he was like, "How you like that? How you like that?" Okay.
And you were with Adam Thielen before or after the game?
Both.
Both before and after the game?
Yeah, and I told him when he was at Mankato State, which we had training camp, I told him, I'm just like you. I'm the kid that grew up in Minnesota, and I'm watching you play, and I need you to bring me home. Just like you were pulling for me, I couldn't do it for you, but I need you to do it for us. So it's awesome to see the Vikings wide receivers. They go unnoticed, but they're the difference. This defense has been great for 3 years under Zimmer in the top 3 as far as defense efficiency, but they're playmakers. Contested balls is what they've been doing, and it showed in this game.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Now, we had Adam Thielen on the show earlier this year, and at the very end of the interview for a call, he said something along the lines of, well, we're just hoping to do the best we can, and if we could, ever so humbly follow in your footsteps and have some of that success. I don't think they had any idea. I mean, did they want it? Absolutely. I don't think they had any idea what it would look like, what it would feel like to be in the NFC Championship game. And then for you, you've been there before. Like, you've been with this team. You know this team. You bleed this team to be standing on the sideline. You were proud of that.
I thought myself, Randy Moss, Jake Reed, Robert Smith, I thought we were going to do it. I thought we were going to be able to put away the ghost of Alan Page, Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White, Fran Tarkin, but we weren't. All right? It wasn't our time. But this team right here, it's the best team that the Vikings have had since 2009, where Brett Favre took them to the NFC Championship, and they lost to the Saints there. So I'm very excited for the team and for the organization. The Wolfe family has done an amazing job. Also did a great job getting me home last night.
I'm just so happy for you, man. Like, I said this before the show, and I wasn't sure. I was debating in my head if I was going to say it on the air or not, but I'm just going to go with it. Not everyone that played for a football team would have basked in that moment the way you did. Like, for some guys, it would have been bittersweet, more on the bitter, because you guys had some great teams that just didn't quite get there. And the way, this is one of my favorite pictures I've ever seen in life. You with the mascot. Because of the unabated joy on your face of the moment of accomplishments of people you care about. And I'm going to stop now because we're early in the show and I don't want to make you too emotional. But
it's a great place. The people are amazing. And, man, that's the damnedest football game I've ever seen. I've been associated with football since I was 8 years old. Tried to sign up when I was 7. And to be there to witness it for those people, and it's what the people have done for my life. It's more than just football. Football took me there, and I was a kid. But they grew me up and made me a man. And to be able to see them finally have some success, finally have the bad luck fall on someone else's side, finally for the card to come that their 5% chance, it came true. Yes, my team. Yes, not as no player, no. My football team, the team I cheer for, like millions of other fans do. Like, oh, man, if I could have threw my clothes off and got naked and did a snow angel, oh, my God, man, it's amazing. It
was great, man.
That is good stuff.
So
Stick it back on. There it is.
So great.
Marinade, CC, marinade.
Oh, I need a nap.